guys, it's Dom here from Soundsphere magazine. Just had a wonderful chat with Alicia Atout. I love catching up with Alicia, just boundless energy and enthusiasm for the industry. Worked in music, worked in wrestling, content creation, so much more. So we talked a little bit about advice and tips for emerging journalists, content creators and things like that, and just had a nice little catch up. Just again, such a fan of Alicia's work and got so much respect for her and what she does. So please do check this out. Please do support Alicia, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon. Alicia, you are very busy, and like I said off record, it's lovely to see you've been over in the UK recently. I'm so glad you got to realise that dream. What is a day like in your life at the moment? You've got Not Best, you've got the Worsties, content creation, wrestling stuff. Tell me about a typical day in your life at the moment.
Man, it really depends. First off, thank you so much for having me back on. It's been a minute, so really excited to catch up. But it depends. Like some days, if it's a travel kind of situation, because that seems to be now like 60% of the time in my life, then a lot of it's just waking up crazy early, getting in makeup, and then rock and rolling for the whole day, whether that's hosting interviews for different companies, just doing worsty stuff, photo shoots, modeling gigs, collabs. Like it's kind of all over the place, which I love. But in terms of when I'm at home and when I'm working remotely, I'm always go, go, go. So it's kind of like very early mornings. I start working, go through all of those fun emails, and then eventually I'll start getting into like the worsties aspect of things, whether that's editing, creating content, meetings. We're locking down a lot of cool stuff right now I'm really hyped about. And then after I kind of do the worsties portion, then I'll edit some interviews or edit my own things or photos or collabs. Then I'll try to, snack in between there somewhere. And then, and then it's just a lot of work, to be honest with you. And then when it comes around like 5 p.m., I'll have dinner and try to chill a little bit. I'll throw on Netflix or a doc or some just really groovy tunes and continue working. So it's like, it's just a lot of work a lot of the time. But you know very well that if you don't put in that work, then you're just going to most of the time remain pretty stagnant, which I do not want. So I'm just trying to hustle while I'm young and see what happens. But I do have fun. I still go out with my friends, and at nighttime I just like to unwind a little bit, whether playing video games, writing poetry, so on and so forth. So, it seems like it's 24/7 work, but it's like, 27 work.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely to hear you've got that kind of self-care in there as well, because again, you seem, it's go, 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 Facebook, Instagram, all the socials, but it's lovely to hear that you're eating a little bit, getting some snacks in, you know what I mean?
Just a little. Yeah. No, I have like a little snack drawer in the corner of my office. And so whenever it's time, I'm like, all right, just a little mosey over there. Actually, I also have a Keurig in my office because I'm like, all right, I rarely ever make it to the kitchen anymore. So let's make sure you're at least getting some nutrients.
Absolutely. Now it's good to hear. One of the things I do want to ask you again, because you've had a long career. You started in the music industry with Ambi. Obviously, you went into wrestling and obviously content creation. How do you define success, Alicia? Like how has that developed over time? How did you look at success when you started your career? And has that definition changed for you now and where you're at now in 2022?
Yeah, it's absolutely changed. I mean, success for me at first was just getting an email reply saying an interview was confirmed, and I would lose my shit. Like that was like the pinnacle of happiness for me back then, just because I was a teenager and I wanted to meet these bands and people and just, continue to grow my product. But that's definitely changed over time. Now success is getting off of a meeting with some big company and locking something down. It's just being happy all of the time. It's making time for myself and people I love and finding that balance, which I know from my previous answer might seem like I don't have it, but for me it just works. Some people can go with only sleeping 4 hours a night and just live that way, and I fall under that category. So I think success now is just happiness, like waking up feeling good during everything, from the personal to the business to things like this. It's just feeling good all the time. And I have luckily got to that point where I'm in a really good spot.
I love that for you, man. Again, couldn't be more happy, and it's very well deserved as well. As I say, a lot of people see the effort that you put in to everything. You're doing a lot of the editing you mentioned before as well. All of the realities of what you do. People don't always see that. So, what would you say are the things you wish you knew? The things you know now about everything you do, at working in the media industry. What would you wish you'd known back then that you do know now? Some of the realities that people don't necessarily see in your, from your brand and what you put out into the world.
Absolutely, just trust the process. It seems really cheesy, and a lot of people be like, "What? You're just going to trust where the universe takes you?" It's like, yeah, I am, because I'm doing whatever I can on my side. So as long as it's being taken care of or guiding me somehow on the other, you're going to be all right. Just make sure you put so much hard work into it and don't slack. I feel like that's the biggest thing. And I would always feel really guilty growing up as a teenager who had this side hustle back then. And I would always feel really guilty whenever I would chill with my family or watch TV. I would feel terrible. Like, no, you should be working on growing this. And I've come to realize now it's like you literally need to take a break. Otherwise, you're going to wear yourself out so thin. It's going to be horrible. So don't do that to yourself. I feel like those would be the main things I would have told little me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, glad that you've got to that point. But it feels like you had to go through what you went through to get to this point. Did you burn out at any point? Because again, like there was so much content, and there is still so much content coming out. But did you burn out, and did you have to burn out to realize that, or was it something that you said, "Nah, I'm gonna take a deep breath, and I realize I need to make this change and have that time for myself"?
Oh, hell yeah. There was a point where I remember being like 20 something, and I had done this crazy week where I had like 6 days in a row, all concerts, because back then I was only doing music. It was all concerts. I was interviewing like 4 to 5 bands a night, going to different venues, and I was barely sleeping because as soon as I'd get home, I'd start research for the bands the next day, and I'd sleep 3 hours, then I was up again, and blah, blah, blah. And then you're balancing those interviews and that kind of work nightlife with your day to day, where I was doing the interviews and then working for other brands and trying to like take photos for other people. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. And then I just realized, like, you can't keep running like this. You're exhausted, you're hungry, like you have everything around you, you're just being stupid. So after that kind of hit me, then I realized, all right, let's start taking care of yourself and your work will still thrive. And again, it goes back to that balance that I feel like now there's just enough yin yang where I'm able to thrive off of it and I'm not completely mess myself up.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that personal growth that you're kind of talking about there, is key. I think one of the things that I do want to just discuss with you, because doing a lot of work with young people as I do now, they struggle with that idea of success, and they look at people like you, again, what you're putting out into the world in social media, and they're comparing themselves to influencers like yourselves, as young people are so particularly interested in, social media influence and all that kind of stuff. So what would be your message to anyone who perhaps compares themselves to you and kind of goes, well, I'm never going to reach Alicia's level of success. I'm never going to get there. What would be your tips for any young person who kind of feels that, is comparing themselves and has that real, struggle, again, with that social media, kind of perception, I guess is the term?
Honestly, just keep on trucking. Like if you give up, then you're literally not going to get anywhere because you can't. So just keep on trucking. You're gonna have so many doors slammed in your face. I remember getting so many just rejections and people saying like we don't have the time and this or that. And mind you, I was just starting, so they didn't owe me anything, nor do I hold that against anyone. And a lot of those people, once I grew, I had on my show. So just hang in there, because I was looking at people, and by no means am I anywhere where I want to be in terms of numbers and growth and just being known out in the world. But I do feel like I've at least built this community of people who care, and that means so much to me. So if you are looking at me the way I was looking at other females and males and just cool people creating cool shit, and you think, oh, it's unattainable, I was there. Like literally, that's all I can really say. I was there. And I remember the first time I got 1,000 followers and I went to my parents and sister and I was like, 1,000 people care? What the fuck? Like this will never happen. And I remember saying like 5,000 is never going to come. And the next thing you know, it does. And you keep hitting all of these pinnacles and accolades. And it's like, shit, like working my ass off is really paid off. So just hang in there. Things will get better. And if you really are dedicated, because you have to be, unless it's one of those very random strokes of luck, which doesn't happen frequently, just keep grinding. Just do it. Reach out to people. I've had a lot of young people reach out to me, and when I'm checking DMs, I'll write people back if they need advice, whatever it might be, because I was in that position too. So yeah, keep going. Things will get better, and don't give up. Like, it's cheesy, but don't give up. If you're not a part of it, then it's never going to come through. So keep on keeping on.
Keep on trucking. Absolutely. And thank you for your honesty there as well, just because, you have been there. And I think, again, what you put out, doesn't necessarily, we all do it. We're all putting our best selves forward, which is part of developing a brand. But that, the reality is that, even you, with all of your followers and where you're at now and, well-deserved success, you have been there. And I think that's important. And that's why I wanted to ask that question. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's awesome to get your insight. One of the things that I also wanted to, because obviously we're on Facebook and stuff, and I see some of the statuses you put out, and I know you've talked about it publicly in interviews with people like Chris and everything. You get a lot of you get some good DMs from people, young people asking for advice, and you get a lot of so you get a lot of other DMs and other types of DMs. Now, this is one of the things that I've been speaking to a lot of young women and non-binary individuals, particularly where they're interested in getting into sports media and sports entertainment and things like that. And, they really struggle because they're getting these messages and they don't, for stuff they know, they want to be known for their content and the quality of their content, but they might be getting messages about other things and other parts of their image, in terms of, their body and their visual stuff. And what would be your advice for any women, non-binary individuals getting into this, getting into the media world who really want to, because again, it's not for me to say as a white dude, but I do want to ask you as someone that's experienced it, and I always cringe when I see those statuses, and this is why I ask you this question.
Oh yeah,
I always cringe when I see it because the quality of your work, the research you do in your interviews, the content you're doing, the Worsties stuff, the video game stuff, it's entertaining and it's fun and people love it. But you do get those people, and I want to ask, tell me about that, and what would be your advice for any young person getting into this industry that's facing those similar messages and similar, solicitations, I guess.
I think a big thing you have to realize when you're in the public eye is every single person is going to have an opinion about you, whether your fan base is of 5 people or 5 million. Right. Every single person's going to have an opinion, whether it's good or bad. So at first, especially when I was like 17 to maybe even like up to 20, I would read all the YouTube comments and every DM that came through. And it wasn't to be self-absorbed. It was because I didn't understand like why people were loving what I did and why people were being so rude. It goes both ways. So when it got to the point of coming around maybe like early 20s, I just had this weird epiphany where some Joe Schmo douchebag wrote something really rude. And I just looked at him and his profile and I thought like, who the fuck are you? It just hit me. I'm like, who are you? You're not doing shit. You're not doing anything. I'm at least hustling. I'm doing what I love. I'm trying to succeed at something. And then that hit me. I was like, there are so many of that guy out there who just have no reason to comment on some young girl's photo or say something terrible. So screw them. And then I just got this mentality like, screw everything. I'm going to do what I want. I remember coming into interviews very young as a teenager, interviewing metal bands and sitting down on the couch and them looking at me thinking like, she's not going to know anything. And then knowing every fact and then them being like, I'm really sorry that I judged you. That was an amazing interview. They'd even say it on camera sometimes. Like I still have the footage or it's on YouTube, So I love that stuff. I love proving people wrong. So if you're dealing with a ton of terrible comments or people just being rude for no reason and you haven't done anything or posted anything to evoke that, then just ignore it. Like it sounds way easier, but just ignore it. You don't have to read every comment. And if you do, and there's something rude, like I don't even delete them anymore. Just let it be because you're going to have people who actually love what you're doing. And those are the people that matter. So fuck the negative opinions, focus on the great ones and just enjoy what you're doing. Because as long as you are happy, it does not matter at all if anyone else is with your work.
Absolutely. And I love that confidence, and I think that really comes through in some of the stuff you're doing with the Worsties and your MLW persona now, which we will talk about in a minute because I love the fact you've now got a character on MLW TV, and we will discuss a little bit of wrestling at the end of this. But I also want to talk to you, again on that sort of note of sort of messages for young people, in terms of key tips of things you'd want to see, if you were kind of leading a seminar now, if you could kind of visualize yourself in front of a classroom, I mean, maybe that's not the best visual, but, what key tips do you want to see from any young journalist? If you give me 2 or 3, but then also, and this is the stuff that we try and really emphasize on because people don't always focus on this, what mistakes have you seen? What things do you not want to see from a young person, getting, whether it's pitching for, an interview or trying to go for money, sending an invoice, all that stuff. What key tips would you give, what to do and what not to do for any young journalist?
Yeah, I feel like the main thing to do is you have to put yourself out there. And if you want to be in the public eye, you have to get over that awkwardness stat. Because if you're going to be awkward and bashful and like not that positive, like innocent, happy way, but like, oh my God, I'm fanboying right now and like making it overly uncomfortable, it's just not gonna work. Like I'd be sitting there with some of my favorite bands of all time and being like, this is fucking awesome, but not and letting them know it was great, but never, like completely swooning over anyone or any band or wrestler or anything like that. So I feel like a big part of it is have confidence, and if you don't, fake it. Fake it. It's not being disgenuine, it's what you almost have to do in order to get somewhere, and then it'll start to actually hit you and you'll actually be confident. It's a very weird psychological thing, but it works, trust me. So that something else is you have to network to get work. That is one of my favorite quotes of all time. And again, it goes back to putting yourself out there. It's from Veep. Great show, by the way. But yeah, you have to network to get work. If you aren't putting yourself out there, you aren't going to functions, you aren't even virtually trying to connect with people, like start a LinkedIn page. It does not matter. But if you aren't networking, no one's going to know who you are. So you got to do that. And then the other thing is socials. Be on them. I know so many wrestlers who post like once a month, and I think it's so stupid. And I don't care who watches this and thinks she's an asshole. Like, it's true. If you're trying to promote yourself, unless you're CM Punk and everyone knows who you are, or Cody Rhodes or whatever it may be, like, use social media, because you ain't nothing when you first start out. No one is. I wasn't. So definitely shamelessly promote. Now, things that I think people do, which I don't really care for, is sometimes people will reach out for an interview and they'll literally just say like, hi, I'm Brian and I interview wrestlers. Want to be on my show? And I'm like, Brian, I don't know your show. I don't know if it's going to be worth anyone's time, and that's not in a rude way. You just have to really realize when you have so many hours in a day, like, you can't be doing stuff like that. So make sure you add details. If you've interviewed anyone, like the moment I interviewed Metallica, and most bands before that were like mid-level, the moment I got them, Motorhead, Yoko Ono, I started introing all of my reach outs with that. So I say, hey, I'm Alicia Atout. I interview musicians and wrestlers. I would only need 15 minutes of your time. Like, specify what you need. If it's virtual, if it's just a phone call, make sure you get the deets in there, but don't make it too long. Like, it's an art how to craft an email that way. But lead with your successes, put in all the facts, and then just press send and make sure all the info's in there. It's very simple. And link your socials at the bottom, please. Yeah. That's like one of the biggest no-nos I've kind of come across, just in terms of reaching out to people. And then the other thing is just research. Like, if you want to be a journalist or an interviewer or even a host, make sure you know who's sitting across from you. I'll never forget, I was interviewing The Darkness. I was like 18 years old. I was super hyped because I also believe in a thing called love. And I went into that interview and there were a bunch of people, like big publications. I'm talking like E-Talk and a bunch of stuff that's really popular up here. And I'll never forget the host just being handed a set of questions. And the producer said, today you're interviewing The Darkness. Here's what you're going to ask them. Yeah. And I was naive and young. I didn't know that's how it worked if you had like a high-end hosting position. And I come in as my little teenage self. My mom drove me in and I'm like, oh, I did all the research. I know every song. Like, what? So do your research. The bands can tell. Like, they can tell. And the next thing you know, you'll get along with them. And then they start to grow and you start to grow and you see each other on the way up. And it's just this really magical thing. So just make sure you know your shit. Don't BS your way through it. Be passionate if you are going to do this, because it is hard. So I think those are like the biggest yeses and nos. I'm sure I could ramble on with tons more, but do your research, state your facts, put yourself over, and don't be afraid to just like unapologetically be yourself, because that's what people are buying into.
Absolutely, yeah. People buy from people, and I love that. It's really concise, and thank you so much, because I mean, I find myself like every time I talk to you, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good tip. You know what I mean? It's,
Thank you.
I learn a lot from you as well every time we sit down together. I want to sort of talk about kind of how you've changed again, because you've you've gone from being a journalist and finding out about other people and learning about other people and doing that research to having a character on screen as part of MLW and then going on to the Worsties. Now, I always thought, and we talked about this before, I've always seen you as a pretty confident person, but you mentioned before that it hasn't always been there, that you kind of have to, again, you've had to fake it sometimes, and then you've developed that confidence. What's it like, going from being a journalist and speaking to people and kind of finding out about them to having a character, to having a storyline on TV, and then also putting yourself front and center, with your colleague over on the Worsties, which is again, character. You have this character now. You've been a heel. You know what I mean? So what's that like for you, taking your kind of experience as a journalist and doing that work to then being front and center with this character that you've developed and building that?
I love it so much. As much as I enjoy interviewing, and I still do it, and I really do enjoy, like, even I was recently, as we were discussing, in the UK with Knotfest, talking to so many amazing bands where I was asking the questions. I feel like at first I went into it where I was like, all right, I'm just a mouthpiece. I'm just here to ask the Qs and they give the As. And then I realized, no, like, you're as much of a star as the people you're sitting down with. So it's about like the yin yang, the flow between the two of you and the overall vibe. So once that kind of clicked, I started to see myself just not as an interviewer, but as a personality. And once that starts to turn, and that also comes with confidence, it's like, oh, I can deliver, I can speak on the microphone, I can act, I can do all of this. Like, why wouldn't I try something else? So I remember coming to MLW and saying, hey, interviewing's been great, but I really know I can bring more to your brand. And the next thing you know, they put me into one of the craziest things I've ever been a part of. And it's been so much fun. And the beauty of it too is I'm a really blunt human being. I'm extremely forward. And especially now, I don't hide my opinions from anyone, because I did that so much when I first started, and that's one of the biggest regrets I have. Like, I love being 100 now. So it's kind of nice. Like, everyone has that inner douchebag, and with this, I can really just crank it to 11 and let out all of those daily frustrations, but in my character work. So it really is me just turned up. I have a blast with it. And then with the Worsties, like, that has just been a completely unexpected, beautiful, universal surprise for Nat and I. We were very indifferent about each other when we first met, and not in like a negative way, just hey, she has her space, I have mine. We don't really get along with other females too well. So we're like, let's just do our thing. And the next thing you know, we ended up talking shit about each other on Twitter, and it turned into something beautiful. We went from being horrible friends to the best of friends, and we still have our ups and downs, but being able to actually do that with someone that you love and blossom it into something that it's become, it's been really wild. So whether it's the video games, the photo shoots, the cosplay content, the skits, fucking pieing each other, like all of this randomness we do, it's all under this brand, and we just have a really good time with it, and we love to hate each other and we hate to love one another,
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I think a lot of people follow it, and a lot of people, do support your work. Before we move on to again messages for those people and those people that supported you, you mentioned again, finding that inner that inner heel. Like how much fun, if you could talk me through, again, you sent that email, you shot your shot, as you are, as you have done many times and got good results. You said, put me in this position. What was it like kind of developing that character and developing that persona, and that kind of, that's a beautiful, kind of beautiful comment that you had there, where it just kind of clicked and you were a persona. Tell me about that transition and kind of that moment you were like, yes, I'm a persona. I have this ability, and kind of developing that, and what kind of the eureka moment. Talk to me more about that, because I think that was beautiful, moment for you. Yeah.
I feel like there were two kind of big eureka moments, and one was personal and then one was professional. So the professional one goes back to when there were these rumors of AEW being a thing, and I remember shooting like Cody a text saying, hey, I would really love to be a part of this. And the next thing you know, he and the Bucks chose me to be the only female broadcaster for their first two debut shows, being All In and then Double or Nothing. And my mind was blown, because I respect them so much. Cody was like hands down one of my top 5 favorites growing up. So to not only have interviewed him for my show, but now be working for him and like calling him boss, that was really weird to me, but in the coolest of ways. So just having that knowledge of knowing like these top people in the business see you this way, why don't you see yourself this way? It just hit me. And it was one of those things where I didn't want to come off as egotistical. I didn't want to have that, like, you know, when you just see someone who thinks they're the shit and it's so annoying because like they're not. I didn't want to come off that way. I wanted to make sure I actually could back up what I was putting down. And when they gave me that job, it really just clicked, like, oh, you really are good at what you do, so you should acknowledge that. So that was one eureka moment. And the other one was just personally. There was someone I knew and I was just really not in a good headspace with them. And then they left my life and it just, I felt amazing. Like it was like the biggest little, oh, I can breathe again. I'm me again. This is wild. So once that happened too, and I didn't feel as restricted, I just continued to roll on with things and seeing things in a different light. And Nat's really helped me with that too. She's a very open person, very open-minded. And I love that bitch to death. Like she's really helped me with my with my confidence a lot, because seeing her just being happy and not caring has made me just realize like my family's amazing. I have such a good core group of friends. I have people around the world who for some reason like care what I'm doing. It's just baffling to me, really. So once I started to see all of those pieces of the puzzle kind of come together, I thought, man, like you're doing something and people are noticing, so you got to just take a little bit of notice too and enjoy it a bit more. So once that all kind of hit me, I've just been crazy.
Yeah, I love the enthusiasm. Again, you know, I get so much from chatting to you, and again, you really feel that passion, you know, when you talk about your work, and that's a beautiful thing. You haven't, you know, again, you've done the festivals and the running around and the deadlines and all that stuff. You know, on those days where you do feel tired and a little bit like that, you know, you mentioned your family there, you mentioned those things, but what is it? You know, you mentioned there some of your colleagues. Maybe I'm answering the question for you here, but what on those more challenging days for you, what is it that really, you know, keeps you going, keeps that enthusiasm and keeps that passion that you're exhibiting here and you exhibit in all of your content?
Yeah, this might be a little too forward, but I don't really care. I think it's one of those things where I realize at the end of the day, you are literally traveling the world, talking to cool people, hosting for cool events, making money off of it. And you get to watch wrestling and listen to music and go to concerts and all this crazy stuff for free as a little bonus on top of that. Like, what do I have to complain about? Like, it's silly, and it might sound ridiculous to some people. And again, I'm not trying to come off like, ooh, life's fantastic, but like I really do have a really wonderful life right now, and I have to continue being grateful for it, because a lot of people are not as fortunate, or they're working to get to this point and their journey might be like this. Their journey might take a very long time. And a lot of people also look at me and think, man, like this has all happened so fast. Meanwhile, they don't get I'm 27 now, and I started interviewing, even though it was just for fun back then. I started interviewing when I was 17. So it's been a decade, you know, like it didn't just happen overnight. So I think a big part of it is just I love proving people wrong. So that comes into play. And then once I realized, okay, don't let your spite lead you, let your happiness lead you. Things click. You know, we've mentioned that word a lot, but things just all come together. It's synchronicity and it just clicks. And right now, I just feel great from the beginning of the day to the end. Even if something terrible happens or something shitty kind of derails it, I just take a breath. I say, be here now. Don't think about the past. Don't think about the future. Just enjoy the now. And then, you know, music helps too.
I saw that earlier. I was like, be here now. I was like, is that an Oasis reference? But I love that.
So
a
lot of people, so it's like a little nod to Oasis, because I knew people would put that together. But George Harrison actually has a solo song called Be Here Now, where he really just talks about manifesting what's in your life and not worrying about the really bad things that have happened to you, or bad relationships, or whatever it might be, and not freaking out too much about what's to come, and just focus on what you're doing in this very moment. You know, like right now I could be worrying about the like 4 interviews I have later or some BS, but in my brain I'm like, nah, you're like shooting the shit about things you enjoy with someone who's cool. Just take a breather and don't worry about the future. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the whole be here now aspect. I don't have any tattoos, but I really want to get that, like a tiny little be here now tattoo somewhere.
That's cool. Yeah, something for the future for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got the plugging bit now, because again, I really appreciate your honesty, and as always, you know, and again, I get a lot from speaking to you, and hopefully, you know, other people do as well, because I just think, you know, again, that enthusiasm, you don't always see that from people that have been in the industry. You know, again, you've been in it since 17. You know, you've been in it for a long time. That enthusiasm is still there. And I think that is one of the greatest things, and is a testament to your work ethic and where you are now. So, again, just because I'm sat in front of you, congratulations. It is so well deserved. And I love to see it. I love to see it. The message then for your followers, whether that's the Worsties, whether that is your fans or haters on MLW, whoever, supports your musical interviews and has supported you from the beginning, really. What is your message to those people that have supported you and will continue to do so?
Thank you. It's crazy to me. I'm from like a small town in Canada where I grew up bullied and just sticking to my own and loving music and wrestling and video games and just being weird. And now people like it. It's very strange that being 100% authentic is what I had to do in order to get confidence. It's a very fickle thing. So if you have ever watched an interview or given something a like or bought merchandise or come to a show to say, hey, whatever it is, like, thank you, because it still is baffling to me that I wake up and see the numbers and the interactions, and it's like just the beginning for me still, it feels. So just thank you so much. It means the world. It sounds so cheesy and stupid, but it's just like I'm having so much fun with what I get to do right now amongst all my different projects, and I'm just happy. So you guys are a part of that. So thank you so much. And of course, thank you for having me back on here. This has been great.
I like to catch up with you every so often because it boosts me as well. I like, you know
Hell
what I mean? It motivates me it motivates me talking to you as well. So I get a lot from it. So it's obviously to it's all about education and informing other people, informing young people. That is why you are back here, because you have a message that can really inspire and inform people. I know that, but it's also a little bit for me because it's nice to catch up with you as well. What is there anything you feel like we've missed? Anything you've got to plug that you want to talk about, or anything you've got coming up that you want to plug?
Man, I mean, just like shameless self promo. I do a lot of really random cool things right now. So if you want to follow them, as we've discussed, the Worsties, we're just Worsties forever across all social medias. We drop photo shoots, skits, wrestling stuff. Like, we're all over the place, but every segment we have a blast with. So that is Natalia Class and myself. So Worsties forever. If you want to follow me, it's just at Alicia Atout across all socials. My YouTube is /a music blog. Yeah, where there are literally thousands upon thousands of interviews with wrestlers, musicians, and celebrities. Knotfest, I host for it, Slipknot's festival and pop culture brand. So every week I do a wrestling show for them, actually, called Knotfest Wrestling on Mondays on their YouTube channel at 7 p.m. And then we also do a roundtable with a bunch of fellow journalists. And then I just started a page because, I needed, obviously, one more thing to my day.
More stuff,
more stuff, called the Alicia Review, which is at the Alicia Review, where I pretty much do like really snooty and fun, pretentious reviews on music, movies, and film. So, that's where I'm at.
Fantastic. Well, Alicia, it's been a pleasure catching up with you. I look forward to doing it again soon. Honestly, so buzzed for you, and I look forward to seeing how you progress and develop before our next chat as well. Again, some amazing stuff going on for you.
Thank you so much. It's so cool to see that you're still interviewing too and doing your thing and just fucking thriving. It's just, I love seeing that for people that I've known for quite some time. So we're in that same position, where we just want to keep growing and see people grow. So hell yeah, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. You get a lot from like each other, and that's why I think it's important. You talk about the networking thing. It's just great to catch up and kind of see you and spend some time like just chatting. You know what I mean? I think it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
It's definitely really important. So yeah, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.